Welcome to Global Professionals in Portugal. Today's guest is Natalie Wood, and she is one of the first people who made it here on the D8 Digital Nomad visa. She works in conversational AI, so we are going to learn from her what that means and about her journey. Natalie, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hello, glad to be here.
So Natalie, first of all, can you tell me a little bit about like your professional situation here in Portugal? What do you do to pass the hours?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm in a very unique situation where my American company, so I've been working in artificial intelligence and conversational design for the last several years. So when I was in the States, I went to my American company and I asked, hey, I'm not feeling very comfortable in the US right now, and I'd really like to venture out and see where else I could move. And because we're a global company, they said, tell me where you want to go.
Oh, okay.
So we looked all across the globe and looked for the safest countries in the world, and then looked at weather and schools and economics, political stability, all of those things. And we decided Portugal was the place we wanted to go. So my company was gracious enough to work with me. They found an employer of record. So I have an EOR here in Portugal. So I look like a Portuguese employee. I abide by all Portuguese employment laws and taxes, but I'm paid through my American company.
Okay. And it was you and your spouse and your kids, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes. So my husband's been a stay-at-home dad for several years. So he was absolutely anxious to get up and get out. He's a wanderer. He's full of wanderlust. We've moved several times throughout the States. This was our first international move. And
Okay.
then I have two kids. I have an older son who's 11 years old, and then an 8-year-old daughter.
Can you tell me a little bit about your visa process? You've been here for about a year, right?
Correct. So it'll be a year this upcoming March. So in March of 2023 was when we finally made the move. We had been doing this research about moving to Portugal for, I'd say, at least a year and a half, almost 2 years. That's how long it kind of really took us to decide and start going through the process. And during that time, it was mostly retirees, right? A lot of golden visas, a lot of D7 visas, and we really didn't fit into either of those categories. So we were really excited when Portugal came out with the D8 or the digital nomad, which fit more my style. I've been a work from home employee now for 6 years, I want to say, or more. So it was perfectly fine to consider me as a digital nomad because I could work from anywhere. So we had all prepared to apply for the D7 visa. And then within a week of us getting ready to apply, they changed over to the D8. So I shifted my paperwork because the D8 was so new at the time. We did not know that we were all supposed to apply at the exact same time. So I got my visa approval and then submitted for my family to go under family regrouping. So that was a very unique experience. Lesson learned: if anybody's going to apply together as a family. Don't do it separately. So I wound up getting my visa approved in January, sent my passport. We went back and forth with immigration about my husband and my kids, and eventually decided, you know what, let's just move. They had moved on their just tourist visas, and I moved with my D8 visa. And then as soon as I had my Steph appointment, back then it was Steph.
Right.
So as soon as I had that appointment, within a few days, theirs automatically started processing, and they fell under family reunification.
That's great because I've read, I guess, that sometimes family reunification can take a very long time. So I'm glad that you had such a great experience. I think that Portugal really wants digital workers here, and so they're going out of their way to be welcoming.
It was a really unique experience because I'd met another American who went through something similar, but instead of applying while still in the States, she waited to apply for her family when they arrived here. And I think that was the key difference, because I had applied before we ever moved. As soon as my visa got the green light from Steph, then they already had their information and started processing it. They didn't even have to go and ask for documentation. I think for those families who come here first and then apply for family reunification, I have heard so many stories of just hours a day calling and calling to get an appointment, and it being a real struggle for a lot of families.
We really could have qualified for both because we're
Mm-hmm.
both remote workers, but we have our own business. So it all worked out, and your whole family's here, which is wonderful. Where did
So
you come from in
at
the
the
US?
time that we moved, I was living in Texas, but the company that I work for is in the Eastern time zone. So I have shifted my work hours a little bit. So I don't start until later into the day. So and that's, my company didn't request that. That was just me saying, I have a direct report who's in Pacific time, who's over on the West Coast. So me being in Europe, the company being Eastern time, and my direct report being Pacific time, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to start my day a little bit later, gives me the mornings to,
Right.
get the kids off to school, run some errands, do things like that. So I typically work about noon Portugal time until about 6 p.m.
Do you work from home or do you have an office outside of your
I
home?
work from home,
Okay.
which is an absolute requirement for me.
Were you able to find like internet and space? You have a good enough space?
I will say when we first got here, again, one of the challenges with moving to Portugal and the immigration process is that you have to have a lease agreement before you can even get your visa.
Right.
We never lived outside of the US ever. The closest we ever visited outside of the US was like Niagara Falls.
Okay.
So we came to Portugal when we moved. That's our first time experiencing Portugal. Never been here before.
Oh,
So
wow. So
we
you had
got
never visited.
Nope, we didn't do scouting trips. We didn't do any of that. We just picked it and moved. And with that, we went online like a lot of people do, Idealista, all kinds of different websites, Facebook groups, really trying to figure out how do we find a place to live. So we did wind up getting a lease. We figured, oh, it's a 3-bedroom apartment. We didn't fully do the conversion between square feet and square meters.
Hmm.
So when we moved into, when we first arrived, it was a very teeny tiny apartment. And we thought, okay, we can live with this for a little while. It'll be perfectly fine. But me working out of the living room while everybody had their bedrooms and the kids coming home and I'm still working later hours didn't quite work out. So we kept hunting. But yes, we did eventually, we just this past November. So from March to November, we were in a very small apartment, 3 bedrooms, still a fantastic apartment.
Right.
But we got it with a realtor who was able to find us a larger apartment.
Mhm.
So we actually have a much bigger space where it's a 4 bedroom. So I did get to have my office.
That's really important to make sure you have enough space if you are going to work from home, and especially if you have kids. If your home is too small, there are a lot of places to work here, and the rents and the monthly fees are extremely reasonable by American standards anyway.
I have lots of other friends here who still work from home, whether they're running their own businesses or whatnot. And several of them have also taken advantage of some of the office spaces, or you can just rent a desk and you can do it by month, by week, by hour sometimes. It just really depends. I mean, there really is a lot of flexibility, especially in some of the bigger towns and the bigger cities that
Yeah.
are across Portugal.
Yeah, and we actually rent like an office. It's in a co-working space, but it has walls and a door and everything. So there's a lot of different options, absolutely. How has it been with your family cohesion and the kids and the husband? Is everybody enjoying it? Are there any lessons learned that you could share?
So I think my my situation was a little bit easier than most. And the only reason I say that is because we had already moved. My kids had gotten used to moving
Okay.
several times, right? Even only at 8 and 11, we had moved from Texas to Ohio, from Ohio back to Texas. And then during COVID, they were doing online school anyways. We
Right.
got a travel trailer and just started traveling everywhere across the US. So they got used to kind of being on the move. Now, I will say when we first talked about, hey, kids, how would you feel about moving overseas and, learning a new language and a new culture? And there was, what am I going to do about my current friends and how am I going to be able to play? And so we did have a lot of discussions, but so far they absolutely love it. I mean, they've made some amazing friendships here. They attend an international school, which makes it a little bit easier for that transition, right? They can still speak to people in English. They're taught in English, but they have Portuguese classes. So that has also made the transition a little bit easier for them. And my husband absolutely loves it. The fact that we can have our kids go to school and not be worried or stressed while they're at school, we know they're safe.
Yeah.
Being able to go down the street and talk to the local farmer and see what fresh fruits and vegetables that person has, like it's just been very refreshing. Kind of feels like we stepped back in time a little bit, but we still get the benefits of today's technology. So it's been a great experience so far. So far, everybody's loved everything.
So, did you always have a high tech career? Because I mean, cyber security and AI are like the two hot fields right now. So, was that where you started?
Not at all. So let's go in the way back machine. Right? Way back machine, right? We go to college, we spend all this money to get these college degrees, and we jump into the job market. And sometimes you'll find a job that's related to your degree, and sometimes you don't. I did not.
I have never
So
done anything related to my degree.
I tried. I got my bachelor's degree was in marketing and advertising. So I tried, but once I got into the industry, it really wasn't making me happy.
Yeah.
So I just started working for a call center. And eventually, with that, through experience, I decided, let's get into corporate training, right? I loved teaching. I liked interacting with people. It was a lot of fun. I became an instructor. And with that came the opportunity of, hey, if you decide to go back to school and get, a degree in education and in curriculum and technology, you can get promoted. Fantastic. So I wound up spending a good portion of my career in corporate education and technology education. So that was fantastic. And when I got to my current company, that's where I started again in their learning department. And I saw an opportunity. There was an opportunity. There was a chatbot. It wasn't being leveraged as much as it could. It was still early technology. So I offered, hey, I will take whatever certification classes I need to. I will jump in head first. I will read as many books as humanly possible. Let me take over the chatbot. Let me see how I can make this technology that we're already paying for, how can I maximize it for us? And sure enough, I found a people leader that was absolutely into it in our technology department and allowed me that ability. And I'll say for 4 years, I have been head over heels in love with technology in a way that I never thought I would be.
Wow.
It's been fantastic, and it does lean itself still a lot on education, right? A lot on user behavioral training, user perception, linguistics, analysis. How do you properly communicate with someone on specific topics?
Hmm.
How do you engage with a user? How do you get them to want to engage with you, right? We've all had these experiences over years, especially recent years, right? We've got all kinds of chatbots and voice bots, and you got Siri, you have Alexa. I mean, we've all had them around us for years. But getting to dive into the background of that, how did they get Siri to understand what you're saying? Those types of things. It's been very rewarding. I absolutely love it. So I've been doing that for like the last 4 years, but did not have a background in technology before that.
I love that. I think there are definitely key times when you can choose to become certified or get more education. You see an opportunity, and I love how you said, I'll learn whatever I need to learn, but this is where I think I can add the most value. I love that you found your home in corporate, that you could do that, and now they've got you working, globally, which I think is wonderful. What a great opportunity that you've created for yourself. I think that's really cool. So, what are some of the challenges that you face just about being in Portugal?
I think a couple of things took its toll on us. I think definitely the move. Again, for my family, we moved here with no experience of Portugal whatsoever. So we came in completely oblivious to anything. So getting to really dive into the culture and understand the natural way of things here, that was definitely a learning experience. The language has been a challenge,
Mhm.
mostly because growing up in South Texas, being part of a Hispanic family, I heard Spanish every day, all day long. So I'm used to hearing Spanish. I'm used to the Spanish accent. I'm used to pronouncing things in Spanish. I would not call myself a fluent Spanish speaker, but I definitely understand Spanish easier, which partly makes it harder
Yeah.
for me to work with Portuguese. I made the mistake of reading Portuguese, like getting Portuguese newsletters and things like that. You can read Portuguese if you know Spanish.
Mhm.
Speaking Portuguese is very different, does
Yeah.
not sound the same. So that's probably been our biggest challenge, where we really want to dive into being part of the community, but we are struggling with that language barrier.
Yeah.
So luckily, there's a lot of we've gotten connected through folks who have been here much longer than we have,
Mhm.
where they have found the city that offers free language classes.
Mhm.
The Polytechnic University here in Leria offers a language class to get your A1 and A2 certification. And so there are a lot of opportunities, both free and paid, to really dive
Mhm.
into the language and get better with things. So now that we're more aware of what's available to us, we definitely have those on our radar for the near future.
Yeah, I'm in the government A2 class now. I do think that there is a myth that people will come here and sort of magically absorb the language and you'll just pick it up. And
I
that
had that myth. I very much had that myth, thinking, "Oh, I can do this. I mean, if
you
I
just
can learn Spanish, I can absolutely learn Portuguese." And it does not translate quite as well.
you were saying, you grew up in Texas, Spanish was all around you for many years and you still weren't
Hmm.
fluent in it, right? So when you come
Correct.
here, we are in, especially if you're working in an English speaking environment and your friends are English speaking, we are not immersed in Portuguese. And so you sort of have to go out of your way to learn the language and study it. It doesn't just,
Hmm.
you know, you don't just pick it up from saying have a great day at the grocery store or whatever. You kind of have to
Right.
go deeper than that.
That's where my husband has a little bit of an advantage on that, right? Because he's the stay-at-home dad, he's going out in the world, he's going to doctor's appointments, he's going to the markets, he's interacting with people at grocery stores or at the car dealerships, or he's getting that experience. With me being a work from home employee, always being at home during the days, I don't get quite as much interaction as
Right.
he does. So I really rely on, and have been relying on, YouTube videos and really trying to identify who are the key educators that offer European Portuguese learning.
What are some of the resources that you have found helpful?
We did wind up getting a tutor.
Hmm.
And one of the things with our tutor that we just started doing at the start of this year was writing down phrases that we say every day. Things that
Hmm.
we say with the kids: go brush your teeth. Great. If I was a Portuguese mom, how would I say that? Right? What does that sound like? So, really identifying these everyday things that we say, the phrases that we use, and then we write those down on a flashcard. She writes down the Portuguese version of it so that we can then start using it. And then we practice those with her, usually about once or twice a week, where we're going through, okay, this way I know the proper pronunciation, right? I'm not just reading
Right.
it. She really goes through and teaches us the proper pronunciation and really gives us the cultural aspect, right? Like a great example would be from Spanish, vamos, right? Vamos, let's go, let's all go.
Hmm.
Portuguese, vamos, same
Hmm.
thing. I just learned about the word bora,
Oh,
which
I don't know that one.
essentially it's the same thing. So you can do vamos, we go, you can use bora. Let's go. Bora is more of a younger generation, more city culture.
Do you do any networking, or how do you engage so that you meet other people? How have you found that experience?
So I've done a couple of different things. So number one, I made sure to try to get as connected as possible with other parents and groups dealing with the schools. So that helped because it's an international school. I've got, you've got parents that are Portuguese, but you've also got parents from Ukraine and from Russia and from India and all kinds of countries. So that was a big help so that we could kind of all go through the curriculum and the education as a group and really understand those differences from country to country. So that was helpful. And then the second thing was I got introduced to a women's expat group on WhatsApp. So really finding that collection of people, some who have been here for years, some who are born in Portugal, moved away and came back, some who are from multiple countries. I mean, it's really a fantastic collection of women who have all kinds of knowledge from every age range. Some have kids, some don't have kids, some are into art, some aren't into art. So that's been by far one of the biggest differences that I have found here, is that regardless of where you come from, all expats kind of come together and love to share lessons learned and experiences. And, whether it's where do I go to eat lunch today, or, how do I find a female doctor or a specialist or things of that nature. Those have really been the two biggest things that have helped us really assimilate.
That's awesome. So do you still stay involved in any of your communities in the state?
I think there's maybe a few AI groups that I still kind of stay in contact with through LinkedIn.
Okay.
But I've definitely already started transitioning several of those groups. So I've added a lot of European AI groups as far as a professionalism. I do find that Portugal specifically doesn't have a whole lot, at least in central Portugal, there's not a whole lot of a tech industry, right? You find that mostly in Lisbon. But other than that, I mean, there's still connections to be made. I've connected with, AI companies and professionals in Italy and in the UK, in Germany. So, I mean, there's still a lot of tech groups in Europe. It's just a matter of finding them. So I've slowly started to transition that.
Okay, great. Would you say that you have any other tips that you could offer to somebody who either is already here or maybe considering doing the employee route that you did, the D8 route?
That's a great question. I would definitely say do your research as far as, depending on what route you're going in, right? If you want to be a digital nomad, there's a lot that goes into that, from employment law, understanding that your company can't just pay you in American dollars while you live in Europe. Sometimes that's the challenge, right? They have to set up a business entity, or that company has to decide, if they've never been in Europe before, they have to better understand what those laws are and how to create a business entity. And that can sometimes be a challenge. So me learning about employer of records, which are international companies that can easily be contracted with, that was a big winner. So doing some sort of research like that, if you're looking to go that route. And if you're looking to start a business, I definitely say also do some research on that one, because creating a business, which is kind of our next stage, right? My husband's been a stay-at-home dad for a while. The kids are a little bit older and they're kind of doing more things. So now it's time for him, and creating a business is definitely where we're looking at going, which is a whole new avenue of research, right? It's not quite as simple as just, in some states in the US, you set up a DBA or an LLC and it's just a quick filing of paperwork and you're done. And it's not quite as simple here in Portugal to do that. The main things, really think about the livelihood that you want to have, the freedom that you want to have, and take that into account.
I think those are great tips. And thank you so much for being here. It was so nice to meet you. And thank everybody who tuned in. And please ask questions in the comments and let us know your experience and what you have questions about.